Sharing my screen. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna be zooming kind of in and out of my Google Drive for the slides, just because I had downloaded them on PDF and Google Slides doesn't accept this type of PDF. So yeah, let me know if it's at all like discombobulating or if you have any access needs around that. But yeah, I'm gonna start. Cool. And I just want to just share like a few things that maybe we could be mindful of. Yeah, I'll be translating the slides to Spanish. So if you have any Hispanic friends, please let them know and share this with them. Secondly, I believe that astrology is secondary to one's worldview. And as one of my favorite astrologers, Alice Barkley Cat, has said, there are as many astrologies as there are astrologers. So it's really like your own like creation. I don't believe that like each astrology has to like copy, and I'm kind of done with like regurgitating astrology. I'm more about like co-creating. And yeah. And finally, if you have any questions, I will be answering them during our share outs or at the end. And please just put them in the chat if you don't want to like forget them. I will be getting to them, just not while I'm presenting on other things. So yeah. And yeah, so on our lineup this evening, these are the topics we'll be discussing. So like, what is ancestral veneration? How can astrology inform this? And we'll be like focusing on Luna or the moon, as well as Saturn in the chart, the Imum Coeli in the chart, and Venus retrograde in Capricorn, which is what's happening in the sky right now. It's kind of like inspiring me to do this presentation. A little bit about me and getting to know me. So yeah, I'm Sophie. I created Astrology Chisme. So Chisme means gossip, by the way. And so yeah, my astrology style is really about by and for the people. And the reason I went with Astrology Chisme is because I want to honor the legacy of safety networks and oral storytelling. And I don't want to like, in astrology, you have to be kind of like a professional or like a scholar. And I really don't like that. I reject professionalism. I just want to talk my shit as a cosmic Thea. And yeah, as far as like me on like the artist level, I'm just here to reflect truth and beauty. I mean, I'm a photographer, so that's like why my astrology is really about reflecting one's yeah, like inner guidance and like their beauty with the stars, the light of the stars. And so yeah, I'm a triple water sign in Western astrology, tropical. So yeah, I'm really good at holding space, and then triple air sign in sidereal. And I'm just now learning my ancestral astrology, which is Nahuatl or Toltec calendar. And so yeah, my sign is the knife. So I see that as I'm here to cut through the bullshit. Yes. Okay, that's me. So I wanted to start out with a quick check-in, which is how do you honor your ancestors? Knowing that there is no wrong answer. And also, if you don't feel comfortable, maybe like answering this, an alternative would be any ancestors that you want to like bring into this space right now, or with your practice that you want to like seek to honor after learning. So yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second, or yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing so we can like look at each other when we talk. But please share in the chat or out loud. Yeah. And like I can start, or I see, wait, Chelsea, you want to start? I saw your hand go up.
I was scratching my ear, but I can absolutely go. I want to go. I want to go. How do I honor my ancestors first? Thank you so much, Sophie, for that beautiful like intro and for us to learn more about you. For me, I honor my ancestors most with like cooking and doing like practices that I knew that like they did, or I don't know, I think learning a lot about like a lot of my closest ancestors, like my grandparents, for example, um, passed before I was born. And I think for me, I know that my grandmother on my father's side was super clean and like a stickler for that. And she was an immigrant and a maid. And I think that makes me feel really connected to her, is to be like, I need to make my bed every morning or like keep a clean space. So that makes me feel really connected. And I have a lot of like placements that I know that make me extra rigid. So yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes. And welcome, Emma. No worries for being late. We're just starting with like the check-in question. And I can share my screen again so you can see. Um, it's how do you honor your ancestors, knowing there's no wrong answer. But I would love to actually hear from you how you do this, because I know that your practice is all about this. So if you don't mind me putting you on the spot.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Hi, everyone. So I have my camera off. I just like I'm not feeling like super energetic today. Yeah, how do I honor my ancestors? There's a lot of ways. My main thing I think is spending time with the land, with nature. I think that's something that's always been very soothing to me and helps me connect. Listening to music, specifically. For example, my grandfather who passed 2 years ago, he was really into like ranchera music. So like I love listening to music that I know that some of them would have liked in life. Honestly, for me, I think the main thing is through connecting to spirituality and like witchcraft and kind of connecting to the paths that I know that they walked on. For example, a lot of my and people in my family were very much connected to Santa Muerte. So I definitely work with her a lot because that's my way of honoring, the path that they walked on and honoring kind of I guess, the deep connection to the underworld and to, I guess, like justice, if that makes sense. So yeah, those are some of the ways that I work. But yeah, sorry, I'm a little bit scattered right now.
No worries. Thank you so much, Emma. That was amazing. Does anyone else feel called to share that, or the alternative question of like who they want to bring into the space? Also knowing that you can bring in like anyone.
Yes. Hey y'all. Oh my gosh. I'm Mika. It's so nice to meet you in this space. Thank you for holding it. And yeah, oh wow. I'm just so touched to be in this like star alignment and excited to hear all about it. I think I've been turning more to altars on like my body and any space I'm in to just rearrange energy and stuff. Like I think especially like we're in the lands of the Massachusetts, and like colonization's made water very sparse here and has made like just cement super present. And so like anytime I can disrupt that, I feel like that's like a calling that like ancestors have been giving to me, of just like arrange this rubble, dance on this mud. And so that's been really sweet. And I think that's the like biggest thing, and dancing alongside it. That's beautiful.
Thank you so much for sharing. I love that. Yeah. Anyone else want to share anything at all?
Yeah, I can share. Hi, everyone. I'm Megan, and it's so interesting because earlier today, before I remembered that I signed up for this, I was feeling really called to do I was just looking through my grandparents' charts, who I know their birth time, and I was looking up videos of them, and most of my family's musicians, And so I connect a lot through channeling them through my own creativity and my own love of music, and then listening to music that I know that they loved, and just like feeling that in my body, and connecting to them that way with things that they loved and held very dear, and an altar in my house as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
So beautiful. I love that musician. Yeah, it's really special to know that you inherited creative stuff. And we're gonna talk about that. So yeah, anyone else feeling called to share? No pressure. Deanne. Oh, Mariah, I see you read in the chat. I can read it. My grandfather is also someone who I wish to honor and I try to honor. He was someone I was immensely close to, and he had a very bright and blazing personality that honestly reminds me a lot of stars that burn in the sky. He lit up any room he walked in, and anytime I let my personality shine in what I do, I feel deeply connected to him. Yes, I love that. It's beautiful. I wonder if your grandpa has any, I don't know, strong like moon or like sun Cancer or Leo placements, because those are like the luminaries in the sky, you know. So yeah, that's so amazing, and we can talk about that later. Aika or Deanne, do y'all feel called to share? If not, it's okay, we can move on.
I can share. Yeah, I thank you so much to everyone who has shared so far. I think something that's coming to mind for me in this space, in honor of our roots, is a collective of trans people, and that's kind of our connecting, or one of our connecting threads. And I think a lot about like ancestry as, or transness as like an ancestral practice, and as something that I was brought into and like was gifted, not as like the first in a chain, but as like, or the last in a chain, but just as another link in it. And just gonna let in someone else. But yeah, I think I honor that by like really checking in with myself on how I want to present and how I want to share my gender with my loved ones, and that has become an ancestral practice for me, like being genuine with my gender expression. Yeah, thank you for the question again, Sophie. Sophie, I think you're muted if you're talking.
My bad. I was just gonna say welcome. We're just checking in about how we honor our ancestors, if you want to share, or if you want to bring anyone in this space, like by naming them, that's cool too.
Hi, was that for me? I don't. Yes. Oh, hi.
Yes, Natalie. Hi.
Like, hi everyone. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get situated because I just got home. I'm in Jersey, so I got confused with the time. But my pronouns are they, she. Hello everyone. And as far as like bringing any type of energy into the space, you mean like my ancestors?
Or by how you honor them. You don't have to name them, but that works too.
Okay. I would definitely just like to make space for my grandfather, Carlos Vilaro. Even though I was very young when he passed, I just feel very connected to him, and I always think of him. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing. Yay! I feel so connected to all of them now after hearing your check-in. And yeah, does anyone else feel called to share before we go on to the slides?
I just quickly want to say I resonated with a lot of things that folks shared, and thank you everyone for sharing. I guess just to add, I think the way I call in ancestors is through practicing groundedness. And as some folks said, like just bringing in creativity, elements of creativity with understanding like the deeper roots and history of my ancestors and connecting that to my present self. It's like, it's magic. And I think also connecting to other folks who are seeking that truth for themselves and like the world around them in like a positive sense is like really sickening. And yeah, dancing, definitely. Numbers. So yeah, I have a connection to numbers, and I realized a couple of years ago that those were angel numbers. And yeah, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Aika.
I can share too. Thanks for having this. I really resonate with the singing and dancing because at least with singing, when my grandma was alive, it was something that was really healing to her depression, and it was something that we both shared. So that's something I like to do. I have a little altar that I like. It's getting a little dusty, but I'll get back to it eventually. Yeah, and I'm trying to like explore more into like music. That's something that's really important that my ancestors would really enjoy and be really proud of me for. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure they would. And yeah, I'm feeling you on the dusty altar. I'm literally was trying to clean it, like, but yeah, the ash with when you're burning incense and stuff like that just never ends. So yeah. And Aika, thank you for sharing the music. And Jesse, yeah. I feel all y'all. Okay, thank you. I feel so much better about sharing what I have to share now that I know where everyone's coming from. So yeah, I'm gonna zoom back out. And again, if you have any questions, leave them in the chat. But let's go. Okay, yeah, so as we know, hearing each other, that an ancestral practice can be as unique and personal as your birth chart, and I would argue like it probably should be. Yeah, because we're all different and beautiful. And so, oh, okay, this was from when the original round of the workshop. I had made a birth chart for the original one, but I'm gonna skip that because yeah, it's fine. I can also do it later at the end if we have time, but yeah. Cool. So let's look into the moon in astrology. So why is the moon and astrology and ancestral practice so important? Well, the origin story tells a lot. The moon, I learned, is a part of the earth that got chiseled away when like a asteroid, or was it an asteroid? I'm pretty sure it was an asteroid, hit the earth. And then the moon kind of just like formed but stayed in the earth's like gravitational orbit and has been here like since. Jesse, you look so excited.
We're losing our shit
Today
over
years
here.
old, like I have no idea. Thank y'all.
Of course, thank you. I love it. It was so yeah, so it's part of our history, you know. The moon is like in that sense reminds us of, you know, what we once were. Our ancestor, literally the moon is our ancestor in a way. And in that sense, like the moon being kind of like that symbol for the past represents memory. And so memory is really important across cultures when it comes to honoring your ancestors. I think that I've heard a lot of how important that is in Earthseed for everyone across, just remembering, especially for those of us who have had like our cultures kind of obliterated, or like our like, you know, our ancestral kind of like histories erased. Memory is often all we have left. And so the moon somehow ended up in that history affecting the ocean tides and the water, which also represents memory, because the water that you and I drink every day is the same water that our ancestors have been drinking for millennia. I mean, obviously it's been cleaned and filtered through the water cycle, or I don't know what it's called exactly, but the precipitation, evaporation, all of that little cycle, it's the same. And so the fact that the moon as a mass affects the ocean tides, again, like points to kind of like the fact that our ancestors are always alive within us, because we are also 90% water, right? Something like that. Yeah, we're a lot of water. We're water. So yeah, the moon is really about reflecting and holding memory. And the moon's joy, I mean, this might be like a little advanced, I don't know, but I'm gonna try and break it down easily. But basically, in the houses of astrology, traditionally, like in Hellenistic or Western astrology, the moon's joy, rejoices, favorite place to be, as far as houses, is the third house. And the third house is a mysterious kind of house because it deals with things from siblings to your neighbors to short distance commute and communications. And so one thinks like, what does this house even mean? Well, that house has to do with relations. And when it comes to especially like being like indigenous or like kind of like identifying with like a culture, relations is really like the most important thing, because it's like your relationship to your ancestors, the land, and the spirits, right, that inhabit it. So anyways, the moon and harvest feast. So why does the moon rejoice in the third house? Because back in the day, before the internet and stuff like that, when astrology, like in like, yeah, I don't know, when astrology was more used for I don't know, just like everyday type of things, and wasn't was more practical. I would say it was more practical. We wouldn't see each other like we are now on Zoom. You know, us as like a community, we would see each other when we would eat. I think I would say harvest feasts. Yeah, like eating is something that brings people together. And so the moon, being that it reflects light, it absorbs the sun's light, and it shines on us, has been like portrayed as a nurturer, right? A nurturer, a nourisher, and that's what food is all about too. So what I'm trying to say is that the moon ultimately serves as a way for us to relate to each other. It's kind of like a mediator for that type of thing to happen, which has to happen on a mental level and on a physical level as well. Hence, like the connection, like I said, to the water and food. So yeah, and like the moon, like people would have harvest feasts on like full moons and stuff like that, you know, just to celebrate. And like, yeah, I think that another thing I just want to add on that point, I guess, is just the fact that the moon loves to be, it rules Cancer, but it exalts in Taurus. And so thinking about Taurus's connection to like food, the moon is really about growing things, I think, and fertilizing, because it does rule like water, like the ocean. It's about the water, like watering plants. I think the moon does best in Taurus because Taurus is like a greenhouse. It's fixed earth. So that's why, yeah, the moon can do really well, do its job really well in Taurus, because of that kind of growth. And yeah, so yeah, I just wanted to connect that and to the somatic instinct, to the point of so yeah, like the moon, I think a lot of people in astrology, yeah, they point it to as like that's our emotional side, and that's kind of like our side that we don't see in other people until we're friends with them. But I don't think that's always the case. I think there's a lot of times, sorry, especially for people like me, have like moon, Cancer moon, or like people who have like moon in the first house, or just Cancers in general. Sorry. Yeah, like I think the moon is can be really prominent to where especially if you were born under a full moon, you know what I mean? Basically what I'm trying to say is that the moon is more about instinct, I would say, and somatic instinct, than it is just about, oh, your emotions, like this is how you cry when you're alone, or like, you know what I mean, this is how you process it. And I think that that does do a lot. I mean, that like can count a lot for Scorpio. Sorry, is Chelsea raising your hand? Is there something urgent?
It was an accident. I was using an emoji reaction and then it raised my hand. Please continue. Please continue.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, we process, and I'm sure like a lot of us here like know that we process emotions like through our body. And I think that, and we hold them there, and the moon in its like fluid state, it's one of the fastest like moving objects in the sky, I think, is kind of like a reminder of the fact that just like the moon, we are never static. Like we're always moving, subtly maybe at times, but we are always changing, and this too will pass. And I think that's really helpful. And I know that for a lot of us, like, yeah, like the moon can just be like a great source of like, I don't know, it's just reflection, just like holding space. I think when I look at the moon, at least, I just feel that. And yeah, that has to do with, yeah, again, the moon doesn't emit its own light, it reflects the sun's light. So yeah. And then finally, nighttime magic. So yeah, going back a little bit to the third house, the third house is a really magical place in that it rules kind of nighttime, like intuitive magic. So the house opposite it, and you don't have to worry about the houses yet, we can go over it later, but if you are following what I'm saying, the ninth house in astrology is a place where we do kind of daytime magic, where we study it through a teacher, or whether it's a priest, whether it's an astrologer, someone there is kind of mediating our connection to the divine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But the third house, on the other hand, it's below, it's under the horizon, so it's at night. It's like a point, and I'll be showing this later, but it's about nighttime magic, and so that's more intuitive. It's like a direct connection to the divine. So it's like messy fingers, hot chips, and like, let me just shuffle these tarot cards, like let me just, like, intuitive, like I just feel like I need to throw some salt over my shoulder. I just feel like I need to wear like all red today or all white today. Like it's kind of that. And so that's where the moon is really important, because the moon holds so much memory. And so it's just passed down generation, generational like nourishment and memory. That can be, you know, a lot, can hold lots on all spectrums of like feelings. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on to Imum Coeli. Okay, so cool. The IC, or the, yeah, IC, I prefer to use that because nobody knows. Imum Coeli is like a Latin word. Yeah, it's basically the lowest point of the chart. When you pull up a chart, which I'll be showing out later, it is just the angle that's just at the bottom. And it is also it's most systems make it as like it's the beginning of the fourth house. And so yeah, the Imum Coeli is kind of like the underworld in that sense. It's just full on midnight. And so that point angle is just super, super important because it's our roots, it's our foundation, and it points to our ancestral connections. Like what do we know about our ancestors, what we don't know. I've used this presentation before, or like this slide, when I was presenting on the houses for beginners, and I did some interpretations just using this angle, and they were really spot on. So I'm can attest personally to the fact that, yeah, this angle really shows your chosen family and home, kind of like that can also be a foundation, like present. So it's not just your ancestral roots, but also like what makes you feel at home. It's also can represent like your subconscious, circumstances we face at the end of our lives. And I would say generational trauma as well, just because things like that, when we delve into like our ancestry, you know, it's not always like a beautiful time. It can be really hard. And so, yeah, I just wanted to highlight this angle, which we'll see. It's not a planetary position, it's just an angle. And yeah. Okay, Saturn. I love Saturn. Okay. Yes. So Saturn is the farthest planet that we can see with the naked eye. And so in this sense, the ancients kind of used and that information to symbolize Saturn as the lord of like boundaries and physical like structures and limits, actually limits. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, and Saturn is also, because it's the farthest one, and for, you know, millennia before we could like, you know, before we had telescopes and discovered like Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, that was literally like the slowest moving planet, you know, for a long time that we knew of, right? And then we discovered that there's more and they're a lot slower. But because it was so slow, a lot of people associated Saturn, and it's not very bright either, associating Saturn with kind of like the harsh things in life, the kind of challenges and limits that make life hard, but at the same time give you kind of lessons and give you kind of like a wisdom, if that makes sense, if you pass these challenges. And so yeah, Saturn, I put ruler of time as the first bullet point for this, just because yeah, they just move so slow, and like I think that Saturn's connection to that like really reminds us that although time can be kind of a construct, Saturn reminds us that there are things that can be measured with time, and that Saturn also reminds us of patience, in that wherever it is in our chart, we might not see the results instantly, or we might face some like setbacks, but things will get better with time. And that's why it also points to the authority of elders, because once you hit your Saturn return and then your second Saturn return, and yeah, like I think people actually live to get a third, if you know, people can live to get a third. Those kinds of Saturn, I don't know, I don't want to say landmark. Saturn, Saturn holidays. I don't know the other word for it, but you know what I mean. Yeah, those Saturn times can just serve as kind of like a testing of what has worked in the past, as far as structurally, and maturity. Saturn is a really good kind of builder of character. So as you get older, Saturn becomes you kind of embody Saturn more, I would say, because Saturn is kind of like an elder. And if you have Saturn, for example, like in the house of like the 11th house, like of friendships, you might struggle to make friends or something like that, or they have to be like really like, you know, you have a high standard or so like that for friends. And they could even be older. So Saturn often in the charts represents like an older person, like an elder. And so yeah, there's something about elders and there's something about having lived years of life that just can't be replicated, like that wisdom. It's just that's why Saturn's really important. And I think also having elders in community spaces is so important, because that kind of like outlook and like, yeah, that wisdom, it's just, we can't. Yeah. So I love Jesse, you put a heart there. Glad. Yeah, I feel it. And so yeah, Saturn. And it's can also show where we can become an authority ourselves. And I know that I had mentioned a little bit about the moon and like holding kind of like trauma as well and the IC2. So I would say that Saturn holds trauma in a way different than the moon, just because these are more of like limitations, where the moon can show kind of like somatic reactions, I would say, to situations where you're like, I just can't be in like this mall right now, or like I just can't be in like this situation. Saturn is more of a protector, I would say. Like they're both protectors, but Saturn comes through with a swiftness, I think, to kind of like chop things out, like negative things. And yeah, Saturn, because like I said, it moves really, really slow. It has its own kind of it has its own kind of endurance, I would say, which can point to the ancestral strengths that you inherit from your ancestors. Yeah, Saturn, I think, can point to not just the traumas or blockages that we might have inherited, but also the strengths, because we all know that, and this is it, this is what I wanted to talk about. I don't mean we all know, but in my trauma class, I took a trauma informed something like peer counseling or caseworker class. And I learned that because trauma is like a physical, it's like a something you store in the body, it's like a fixed thing. You know what I mean? It can like crystallize. I don't know. That's just how I picture it. You can picture however you want. But it can be like a superpower. I think you can have like, you know, your own magic from it. Yeah, like for example, my teacher would say like, yeah, like for being like being, you know, living in poverty, you can like have that superpower of being like a hustler, or you know what I mean. And that could, there's something that makes you kind of excel or like challenge that in a way. Like Saturn kind of forces you to level up. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't address your trauma or anything, but I think that there's more to trauma than just like holding pain. I think Saturn is a really good transformer of that. Yeah. And okay. Finally, I guess I would just want to say, well, I guess I have two more points. Saturn and generational cycles. Yeah, again, like, because Saturn is like, it's not a generational planet, but it is farther out, like I said, than like most planets. And because Saturn, like even like in its rings and everything like that, it kind of has like a connection to like cycles, like this physical like circle, like circular, like spiralic type of shapes. Yeah, Saturn would definitely point to that. But I guess, yeah, we were talking about, yeah, cycles of time, and Saturn as a ruler of time would definitely point to those. And finally, yeah, Saturn's all about commitment. So if you're trying to honor Saturn or work with Saturn, lessen its negative effects or heighten its positive effects, make a commitment to whatever. Saturn's really happy when you commit to things. I think that unlike the so-called like easier planets like Jupiter and Venus, Saturn is really about not faking the funk. Like, I don't know, like you just can't. And I think what's that brings it to what that connection to an ancestral practice would be the fact that an ancestral practice, sorry, is about commitment, you know, and just showing up however it is, you know. I know that for me with my altar, yeah, and like cleaning it, you know, doing like the little menial, mundane type of things. And I think that in a way, yeah, Saturn would definitely point to the elders in our life, but also the ancestors, because they happen when you dedicate yourself to like upgrading. So yeah, I think I went a lot of time on Saturn. I spent a lot of time on Saturn, but I didn't want to get it wrong. So yeah. Okay, cool. Just gonna show y'all a little bit about what I mean. Oh yeah, I was gonna talk about, I'm gonna bring in Cancer and Capricorn as signs, because Cancer is ruled by the moon, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And so this is the sun, and these are the points where, you know, around our orbit, these two, where there's the December solstice and the June solstice, and you know that impacts you differently. And I think that this is for the northern hemisphere, so just wanting to clarify, like these solstices, they impact the hemispheres differently, but sorry, like as far as seasons, right, like we have different seasons, but we still share these kinds of, like, you know, everyone on earth experiences this. So yeah, just wanted to point that out, and wanted to point out that yeah, I mean, Cancer and Capricorn oppose each other, so you can see that. So we have a moon ruled sign opposing a Saturn ruled sign, and that that is going to be interesting to you in a minute, or you're going to see why it's relevant in a minute. And then here's like, so you can actually see like the physical like sign or the constellation. And yeah, this is accurate. This isn't like, this is accurate as far as like the constellations are always moving. So now they're like different, but that's something else for now. Like just wanting to let y'all know like that when, although these constellations aren't exactly in the same place anymore. They have shifted. When Western astrology was created, they were like, we're just gonna work with this because of the values that the Greek society had, which was about unity. So it's still relevant, okay? Just wanted to let y'all know. But yeah, so here's Capricorn and here's Cancer. And let me skip over. Okay, cool. And then here it is in a birth chart. Capricorn up here and Cancer down here. And this is in my birth chart. Okay, cool. So I want to let y'all know, yeah, like the moon and Saturn, they can work together. Although Saturn is a dry planet and the moon is a wet planet. So it's like, doesn't seem, they're opposites. They're opposite the chart. They can work together, and I'm going to show you about my Earth seed film and kind of just an example of ancestral things in the chart. So my Mars is in Capricorn, in the 11th house. And so yeah, for those who don't know like much about what that means, Mars is a fiery planet that kind of represents like our brazen will. Supposedly, yeah, it's like named after the god of war. So can show like, yeah, like a lot about where we defend things, what we protect, and also just our decision making. In Capricorn, it exalts, so that means that it does really well in Capricorn. It does its job really, really well in Capricorn, which is an earth sign. And the reason being for that is that Capricorn is like a cardinal earth sign, so it means like it moves. It's always initiating. Cardinal, which just means it's like moving, and it's represented by like a sea goat that's also climbing mountains all the time. So as you can imagine that a planet like Mars, it's always like has a lot of energy, is just by fire, would do well with like a long-term goal, which is what Capricorn is about. And that shows with it being ruled by Saturn, right? The long-term, that longevity that Mars needs to do its job well. And the 11th house being about like friendships, but more specifically, I would say it's your ideals for the new world and the people that you build that with, like the people who have a shared goal with you. So that's where my movie comes in. My short film was about just documenting going to the Zapatista women's gathering with a bunch of like queer creatives. And that was a really 11th house experience because it showed me that I made like really like good friends there. I'm really happy. I had never met them before. And yeah, it was kind of really powerful because if you hadn't watched my movie, my great grandpa was a Zapatista himself. And so having that connection, I was like literally with people who had like the same ideals as me. And so with Capricorn, I think that's why it's important to look at where Capricorn is in your chart, because it shows like the legacy of the actions in like of your ancestors, like physically, like we got our land back. So it could show up as like a physical thing because it's an earth sign. And for me, I have Mars there. So it was really like poignant when I found out that, like he was a Zapatista. Like I didn't know he fought and was a warrior. I didn't know until, I don't know, I was like older. And so yeah, that would be an example, I guess. And to me, yeah, that my Mars is kind of like a legacy of the warriors in my my family. And so to this day, I still like do my tarot and everything like my warrior ancestors are always the first ones to show up. And that's, I would say, is reflected not because of my Mars, but reflected by that placement. And yeah, I would say I'm really well protected. And that Mars is opposite my moon in Cancer. So it's in its home sign. And the 5th house is, if we kind of like keep in mind that like the top of the half of the chart, looking like this, is like the daytime, and the bottom half is the nighttime. This 5th house area is more private. It's where you kind of just retreat to your art, your creations, and that can look like children or art projects, entertainment, having fun, risks, gambling, stuff like that. Yeah, it's just the house of pleasure, I would say, and it's called the house of good. Is it called the house? I think it's called the house of good fortune, but don't quote me on that because that could be the 11th house. So it's one of these. These are both, yeah, these are both really fun, good houses. But anyways, so yeah, I asked my ancestors with this deck I have, Santa Muerte Tarot deck. I highly recommend it. It's really amazing. I was like, what did I inherit from y'all? Like, what gift? And it was all had to do with art. And that makes sense to me because I've always just been in art programs. And I don't limit myself to one thing. I'm like owning it as a Sagittarius, midheaven. I'm a jack of all trades, and I have the capacity to master them too. Okay. So yeah, I love art, and yeah, that would definitely show and my chart that I inherited those gifts. And now let's look at some of y'all's placements. Oh my gosh, my bad. So share out, what are your Saturn and Moon placements, or any Capricorn or Cancer placements in here? Also, if you don't know, I can pull it up.
I can share my moon, and I just looked at my Saturn because we're talking about it, and I didn't really have like an understanding of my Saturn placement, which is really nice. But my moon is in Virgo. I don't have the house right now. And my Saturn is in Aries, 5th house. And it was interesting when you mentioned about like Saturn being like commitment, because I am just so not that. And I know that Aries are like very determined and they get shit done, and not that I don't get shit done, but I love to just chill. And I guess because of like mental health issues and like trauma, like I find like a lot of peace in just not doing anything. But I know like there's something in me that's telling me like that I need to just do things differently, because that will serve me better in a different way.
Thank you so much for sharing, Natalie. I love that you have your own like already like on point intuition with your like Aries Saturn, even though like you might have not come into it like understanding it, and just wanting to affirm that Aries is actually like one of the signs where Saturn like supposedly doesn't do well, or like when because it's opposite Libra, where it's like can do its job really well, like it exalts, like I've been using that word a lot. And so it's opposite Libra, and in Aries, Aries doesn't have that patience that Saturn is so known for. But what's beautiful about having like an Aries Saturn, I would say, is that I know y'all's generation like isn't willing to put up with a lot of this oppression. And I think Saturn, as a protector, is always, and as like kind of associated with like the negative things in life, can show like people who disrupt that kind of like a systemic hold limits that we have, because yeah, I would say you're not complacent. You know, Saturn and Libra might supposedly be like the best placement for Saturn, but it can be extremely complacent. And the United States has a Saturn in Libra, like the birth chart for the United States has a Saturn in Libra. And that's where that kind of like, you know, and justice for all kind of like tone, like that's really Saturn and Libra, because Libra is about justice, but it makes everyone kind of like, you know what I mean? Like be kind of like hollow, just complacent to that. So I think what's beautiful about Aries Saturn is that, yeah, like while it might be more of a challenge to master like discipline and staying committed to things, it's okay. Like now that you know, like you just have to like do things when you feel like it. Like it's okay to just do that. And also what was I gonna say? I don't know, I just have a question for you. I find that sometimes Aries Saturn, like they are excited to grow old, like they're not scared of it, or like I don't know, are you scared of, like what's your relationship to that?
So thank you so much for all that insight. I'm definitely gonna do so much more research. As far as like I just want to comment on the complacent thing. I'm like, I think out of everyone in my family, I'm the one that never does what like you're supposed to. I always like to bring in new ideas, new like things in my life that my family's like, where the hell, like, did you come up with any of this? Like my family's convinced that I've lived other lives before. Like I believe we all did, but I know like my rising is Sagittarius. I'm an old soul. I have a lot of wisdom, and yeah, I'm not scared to grow old. I think like the idea of growing old is super exciting, and like based off of having a really beautiful, loving, compassionate grandmother, like I'm excited to one day be like a grandmother, and I want to be a mom, and I already feel like I have things in me that makes me want to I want to share that, and I want my future generations to just be much more powerful than I am, because I know I hold so much of it. And I know my lineage has struggled so much. And even as far as like my mom, like continues to struggle every single day. Like I see so much struggle around me. And I just know that I can bring so much more and different perspectives. And I'm already trying to challenge that now. And it has been easy. It's like so difficult to feel like, you know, black sheep or like whatever, like the outsider. But at the same time, like I know, like you mentioned, like Sagittarius being a jack of all trades, like I do so many different things, have so many different side hustles, and I'm not scared to like make my money in different ways. And I think that like puts me ahead of like people that are scared to do that or like don't know how to. It comes supernatural to me, all of that. So yeah. Thanks for the love, guys.
Thank you for sharing. And yeah, I can't wait for you to like heal your lineage too with your own creations, because that's so Aries, like fifth house, like the fifth house represents your children and like where that kind of legacy lives on. So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, definitely look into your Mars as well, because it will rule your Aries Saturn. So yeah, looking into that. And yeah, does anyone else want to share anything? I can also pull it up if you don't know.
I don't know if you can see it, but there's some in the chat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, what, Jesse?
I was going to ask if you wanted us to read them to you, if you wanted to take a minute and look at them.
Okay, yeah, no worries. I'm on it. Got Cancer Venus. Oh my gosh. I love that. Taurus, Saturn, and Libra. Yeah, so I'm sure you included, I mean, I don't know if you included the Cancer Venus because I asked for the Cancer placements, but so your Saturn and your moon are both ruled by Venus, by that Cancer Venus. So, and what's beautiful, I would say about this is that Libra moon, your moon and your Venus, they're in something that's called a mutual, oh my gosh, mutual, I don't know why I'm blanking, y'all. Hold on. It's like mutual reception, which means that so Venus is in the sign of a moon and your moon is in the sign of Venus. So they help each other out. They work together. And yeah. Did you want to say something?
Oh no, thank you. Yeah, I feel like there are so many like reflections and the patterns you're talking about are like really coming through.
Yay, I'm glad. And then I see Deanne, Saturn in Pisces, 8th house, Moon in Gemini, 11th house, Uranus and Neptune in Cap, 6th house. Okay, yeah. So a lot of people, like millennials, have Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn. And yeah, I was definitely see like a lot of y'all like kind of like building new systems and that Capricorn like building energy because Uranus and Neptune are generational. And then yeah, Saturn and Pisces, 8th house. So yeah, I could really Saturn and Pisces. Yeah, like I would see that one, like this is giving me very much like working, like I don't know if you work at all with like holding like space for other people in like a really intimate way. But you should definitely I don't know. I would say look into that. Um look into opportunities to let people tell you their story or if you yeah. Um hold on. Yeah. Okay. Um Chelsea, you have like a Cap, Sun, Mercury, midheaven all in the 10th house. Saturn and Aries in the 1st house. Capricorn, South Node in sidereal. Okay. I got Gemini, Moon. Oh my gosh. I don't know why I can't scroll anymore. Can you read them to me? Sorry, I can't scroll.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Oh,
Oh.
okay. Yeah, actually.
No, you go for it. It's your chart.
Okay. Gemini moon in the 4th house, Saturn and Pisces in the 1st house, Cancer and Sun in the 6th house, Cap in the 12th house, and then like the outer planets, I think it's like Neptune, Uranus, and something else. And then Cap rising and Cancer Venus in sidereal.
That's really, really beautiful. I love that. I'm not gonna offer interps until the end. I just realized because I want to pull up y'all's charts, but thank you to everyone who is putting your placements. I'm glad that we all have something we can take from this personally to our chart. Because yeah, that's the point. Okay, I'm gonna move on to our, yeah, I also want to offer opportunities for me to offer interpretations that relate to the moment if that interests you. So speaking of that, I'm gonna close this. Oh, there we go. So Venus is currently retrograde in Capricorn. And so what that means is that from our view, it's not really moving backwards, but from our view, like on Earth, it is. So these retrogrades are great for reflecting, reviewing, and reimagining. I would say also revisiting. I just learned something. I know a lot of people freak out when Mercury goes retrograde, that's also happening, but and I know a lot of people say like don't start something new, but I just want to share that I learned something new, which is that it could be a great time to start something because what people say around retrogrades is like, oh, you're gonna have to revisit it. You're not gonna complete it well the first time, and that sucks. You're gonna fail. But actually, if you want to revisit something, it's well worth looking into whether that's like a new like daily habit, something, a new business you haven't like figured out, something that you want to revisit, like start it on retrograde because if it's, what happens is it moves backwards and then it moves back forwards. So as it moves, as it switches directions, you're gonna like, you know, revisit that usually around this exact like time, like, and the exact like place where Mercury was or whatever is going retrograde was when you started it. That usually lines up. But yeah, so just wanted to share that. And yeah, they're really good for looking in. And so I wanted to share Venus and relations, because Venus in Western astrology is often chalked up to money and love. And I know that I'm also guilty of this sometimes, but it's tied to having and being in right relation to the land, to people, and to spirits. These are key, you know, Venus ruling Libra, which is often, you know, like showed about being in a balance with another person, is all about relationships, and I think justice in that, and like having a reciprocal relationship. So that's key in an Indigenous worldview, I would say. And that is also key in having relationships, starting them with your ancestors. So in this kind of like moment when Venus is retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, that, as we learned, kind of has a strong connection to your ancestors and Saturn. And Saturn is about making things last and, you know, holding high standards for yourself. So what do you value? And is that lining up, I would say, with your relationships? Like, can you honor those things in your relationships? And if not, or if so, how can we foster sustainable relationships where your values aren't compromised? I think that Venus is often seen, and the signs that Venus rules is like, or it's Libra, it's like, oh, always seeking compromise. But Venus also rules Taurus, and, you know, Taurus is really stubborn in its maintaining its values. And so Venus isn't passive at all. Venus is just wanting to share that, because Venus is like has been like feminized. It's like one of like the only two planets that are like feminine, or like, and that distortion of the feminine as passive can really mess up our relationship to our Venus sign. So being proactive about relationships right now, especially with our ancestors, that's what we're here to do. So how can we do that with our ancestors? So yeah, I have some practical uses and like ideas for that, but I don't want to limit y'all's to that, but these are some ideas. So because Venus, you know, it does rule sugar and stuff, it is a sweet planet. It is, you know, stuff like that. Make room for sweetness. Venus is artistic, so, you know, play old music for your ancestors and dance. I know a lot of y'all mentioned like creativity. That's so important right now. Also, if you have an altar, you can eat and offer sweets with them, like candies. I get candies that are like tradition, or not tradition, but they're from Mexico, so I was like, yeah, I get candies like that. Jewelry, offering them jewelry, even if it's just for a little bit, or like y'all share jewelry, you know what I mean? Because sometimes I'll put jewelry on the altar and then I'll wear it myself too. Also, just period, like, don't entertain relationships that make you feel burnt out, like, or don't make you feel right. Just don't. Or do and find out later. Check what house you have in Capricorn and your Taurus. And why I say Capricorn, I think it's kind of obvious, but yeah, Taurus and Libra also, just because that will give you insight to what Venus moving backwards and what areas of life, like what is that affecting? So what is your Libra house, like that's being affected, and what is your Taurus house? So you can get some more unique insight. And remember that, yeah, your healing is their healing. And that's in all aspects of life, like, you know. And finally, this is like really, I wanted to talk about this sooner, but nourish your Saturn by connecting to your inner elder. And also nourish your inner elder by connecting with Saturn. And then nourish your moon by connecting to your inner child, and nourish your inner child by connecting to your moon. Remember that we have all of our ancestors, like, or not, I wouldn't know about all, but we have our ancestors living through us, the ones that claim us anyways. And we have our inner elder just as we have our inner child. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Do we have questions? Oh, my bad. Questions? Anyone want me to pull up your chart can do that as well.
Sophie, thank you so much.
Yeah. Salamat.
That was really such a rich offering. Yeah, I want to open up, or as you already have opened up the floor, folks are welcome to send them in the chat, or just go ahead and unmute yourself. Yeah, thank you again, Sophie. And Sophie, if you want to pull up any charts that you were thinking of, feel free as well.
Well, I wanted to prioritize people like physically, or not physically, but currently present in the space. But I did have, if no one is like wanting interpretations, because I do want to interpret what y'all put in the chat. I just need your exact birth time so that I can really give you an accurate thing. But I know that there was one person who couldn't make it live but wanted me to do it for the recording. And I see Emma, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'm happy to offer mine up as well. You're muted. I don't know if that's on purpose.
Sorry. Yeah, and I see other people are down too. So I'm just gonna pull up Luna, and we're just gonna create a profile, and you're gonna tell me your info.
Yeah. So June 15th, 2001. My birth time is 3:27 a.m. And my birth location is so-called North Vancouver, BC, Canada.
Thank you. Okay. So let's look at Capricorn, Saturn. Capricorn is in the 9th house of kind of what I mentioned earlier as like connections to the divine, like astrology or religion, but is like mediated through an institution or education. So it's also your beliefs and your outlook on life. So I would say, let's look at your Saturn for more information, and it's in Gemini. So yeah, your moon is in Aries. I would say, just based off of this chart alone, like just from that information, one of your ancestral gifts is especially because your Mercury is retrograde and that's ruling your Saturn, like, is, I would say, not compromising on your beliefs and like for anyone, and like your values for anyone. And I think that having like Saturn in the second would definitely point to that kind of being influenced by your relationship to like things such as like land back, or like mutual aid, and like things like reclaiming what is yours in a way, but reclaiming what is yours not just physically but also because it's in Gemini, like an air sign, like information. And I know that you are you do ancestor readings, right? So that would like totally, I would say, like point to you also generating like income, the second house being like income, like possessions, from that kind of like connecting, like you hear your ancestors, you know what I mean? Do you hear them like physically, like is it clairvoyant, or what is it like?
For me, it's definitely claircognizance, clairvoyance.
What does that mean? Sorry.
Sorry, my mom was bringing me food. Clairvoyant, claircognizance is kind of just like a knowing. So for me, like oftentimes I'll just get like not a random thought, but I'll get like thoughts which are kind of like downloads that are like obviously, you know, not coming from me. So like my ancestors communicate a lot that way. I'm also like claircognizance, as in like I oftentimes like they send me visions through like my third eye. So as well, clairsentience as well. I don't know if that could be reflected in my birth chart, as in like I oftentimes am able to feel very heavily a lot of the things that they felt or that they're feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I love that like vision thing. Like, cause yeah, Gemini is like an air sign. So I totally, yeah, and I see that, and like your moon like in Aries, in the 12th, I would definitely say like the 12th being kind of like the spirit realm, definitely like feeling them. I would say that would be um your clairsentience. I hope I'm saying that right. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
really cool. And I think I wanted to say something else about your chart. I can't remember um exactly what it was. But as far as Venus retrograde, yeah, I would say, oh yeah, don't be afraid. What I love about your chart, I wanted to add, that's what it was. You're not really afraid to change your mind and kind of like look dumb or whatever because you're changing your mind. And so don't be scared to do that again, like this Venus retrograde, like keep that up. Um, yeah, does that resonate or no? Because I just want to
No.
know.
Yeah, it does. It does resonate. Actually, that's like my biggest thing right now is I'm realizing that I don't know a lot of things, or things that I believed about myself are turning out to be maybe like things that were kind of enforced on me. Like I very recently started questioning my gender, and I was like, haha, actually, I don't identify as a woman. So that kind of definitely resonates with what you said.
Yay! Oh my gosh, I love that Venus retrograde is bringing that kind of like knowing, inner knowing to you in a way. Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Does anyone else want, can you just unmute yourself if you want an interpretation?
Yeah, it's Megan. I love that. Thank you so much. 11:03, 87, 2:06 p.m. and Indianapolis, Indiana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, does this look accurate? Aquarius rising, Scorpio sun.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Okay, yeah, cool. I love that you're ruled by Saturn, and I actually kind of wanted to bring this up. Like, I didn't, I want to, because I thought it would be too much, but Saturn also doesn't rule Capricorn, it rules Aquarius, which I think is like the part of like our like inner elder or like ancestors who are like, enough, like time for something new, like we're building new worlds out here, like let's look at it a different way, or like our part of our ancestors that's like, I was secretly this way, or I had to hide that part of myself, that weird part, and now crossing over they can like identify as queer or like more of an outcast, if that makes sense. So yeah, just wanting to point that out. And I love that you were ruled by Saturn. So let's look at, oh, it's in Sagittarius. Okay, yes, I love that. Yeah, and it's conjunct Uranus. So wow, that's really, really cool. For your chart, let's also look at, yeah, Capricorn. Yeah, I mean, having it, and also, so like I said, 11th house of like ideals and the people who share them with us. I would say your chart is just like, is so like, it's really radical. I don't know, it's really like disruptive. Like you just want people who share like your beliefs with you, who are ready to like burn it down. Because Sagittarius is a fire sign, just kind of going, I don't know. I'm really curious to know like how structures like are built in your life, like with friendships. Like are there like, do you just make like new friendships like that and then they end up lasting forever type of thing? Like, okay, it sounds like yes. I love that because of that, like Saturn is so slow and it represents that like longevity, but you have Uranus right next to it, which is like a lightning bolt. I can't wait to see how you grow up like as an elder. I just feel like you're gonna be like the really like wacky like grandma, and I love that, like the ones that kids like trust, especially if you have, wait, no, I was gonna say Gen Z, but we're already all grown up. Like it's alpha. So I was gonna say something else. But I love that. Yeah, I think that it also, I mean, let's look at your moon and stuff. Yeah, I mean it's, you know, complements your fire moon. And so, and in the third house. So yeah, I mean, that's really cool. I want to know, like, do you, that's really cool, because it's next to Jupiter and that rules Sagittarius. So you must be really good at bridging people together, I feel like, because of that relations aspect that I talked about, the moon rejoicing in the third, with the North Node. Wow, it's so, yeah, I feel like it's almost like you grow just having like conversations like with your community like this, like what we're doing, and you expand like mentally. Yeah, it's so awesome.
Yes, I definitely feel that. Definitely.
Yay. I'm glad. Thank you, Megan, so much for sharing. It's really, really cool to look at this example. Anyone else? Sorry, I just want to prioritize y'all's time because I know I was planning it to be an hour and a half, and we're a little bit over. So if anyone else wants to go before we move on to closing.
Thank you, Sophie.
Hi, this is Mariah here. I would like to offer mine up.
Awesome. What's your birth time?
I was born at 4 p.m., May 23rd, 1997.
You said May 23rd, 1997.
Yes.
At where?
Houston, Texas.
Houston. Does this look right? Gemini Sun, Libra rising.
Yep, that's perfect.
Oh wow, okay, cool. So you also have the Aries Saturn. That's why I'm like, we already kind of like talked a little bit about what that means. And you do have it in your 7th house conjunct your descendant. So I mean, I'm sure you've heard a lot about like that kind of like, oh, kind of negative things, I guess, about partnerships and like the first one's
Yes.
gonna work out, and then yeah, I find that it does happen. How old are you? I mean, how old are you right now? Sorry.
Oh no, I'm 24 right now, and I'll be 25 soon.
Okay, yeah. I would argue, yeah, like because it's in Aries, and it is kind of like impatient. Let me see what it's ruled by. Like that might not be the case, you know what I mean? That you find love until you're older and more mature. Um, but your Mars being in the 12th house in Virgo, I would think that whoever, yeah, your partner, whoever is like lucky to be your partner, it would be like a writer or like a really intellectual type of person. And I know that we're not really here to talk about that, but just knowing that Saturn is in your 7th house, I would say from an ancestor point of view, mediate having, I think you mentioned you have an altar. So the 7th house isn't just about partnerships, it's where like kind of two people meet. So if you have like an altar, maybe calling on like one so that y'all can share that like one-on-one space with an ancestor, like whether it's through tarot or like however else, like your prayer. Yeah, I would say that just creating those, like taking like the courage to just like spontaneously, like in an Aries way, engage with your altar in like a 7th house space, whether that's like in the sunset, whether that's meeting them halfway, as in like you're kind of like sitting there, if that makes sense, or like bowing, or I don't know. But I think that there's something to say about your relationship aspect to your elders, your ancestors. I don't know. Is any of that resonating so far?
No, definitely. It was funny because the first thing you mentioned was like my partnerships, and I've been in like 2 relationships my whole life basically, and I'm currently in a serious one right now, but the first one was a total mess, and like I just wanted to give up then, but I have a feeling that the one I'm currently in will last a long time, and it's only because I had the time to like grow up, mature, learn a lot of lessons, stuff like that. So it definitely resonates with me.
Yeah, of course. And just knowing that like whoever like does end up with you, like if you have that like feeling, like just knowing that the ancestors actually like made it happen, you know, because Saturn has those high levels of expectations and standards, and I think that comes with having like generational like frustration, even like with partners, maybe like your ancestors, you know, were in a lot of like limiting or almost, I don't want to assume, but like forced, you know, a lot of that happened a lot like back in the day, like forced partnerships. And so you're here to really heal that by choosing and like being like fully autonomous like in your decision. So definitely go for that feeling and know that they made it happen, you know what I mean?
Thank you. I love that.
Yes, I love this. And I don't know if anyone else wants to go. I know or if we still have time, like I don't know, Jesse or Chelsea, how are y'all feeling about time and stuff?
Yeah, totally up to you in your capacity. We want to yeah, have a chance for people to thank you and to close out. But we also encourage folks to, as I'm sure you do, like engage with your work beyond this workshop, and like book you for readings and consults. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you want to offer in this workshop, or if you want to just direct folks to your other offerings. And you had a slide about that.
Yeah, I would say unless anyone, I know Aika's the only person who's had like a reading from me like in this space. So I don't know, I just want to like check in with you like personally about where you're at, Aika, and just like thank you for trusting me, because you trusted in me and took a risk on like reading with me like way before like I had like a you're like one of the first people who read. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you. And yeah.
Oh my God. Thank you. Like, honestly, you definitely have like a keen intuition for this work. And I just really am grateful for like, you know, just like being able to like hear from you and like all this like sacred knowledge. I'm resonating with a lot of the things that you're saying. Like I'm sitting here like, yeah, oh my God. Like, you know, like super engaged. Like I'm just like nerding out about it. And like, yeah, I just like love the way that you like express and like research this work. So yeah, like also I appreciate you so much. But yeah, I'm down to do
Yeah, because I have yours already. I think
yeah.
pulled up. So yeah, I can do it really quick.
Thank you.
But yeah, after I think I'm down to close out. Unless there's someone with like a burning thought. But yes.
I wanted to know if Sophie, your Cash App, what's the name that appears on your Cash App?
Oh, that's my brother's. It should be Derek Morno, but I need thank you. Is it
Yeah,
that?
it says full ZP.
It says what? Sorry?
Full ZP, like the username is SFCityG, and then the name that pops up is full ZP. Just want to make sure that's the right one.
Yeah, it probably is. He's really young, so I'm sure
Okay.
he has some weird name like that. Okay, yes. Yes. Saturn and Pisces. Okay. Yeah, so for you, Aika, you have Saturn in Pisces, like in the second house of, again, possessions and stuff like that. And so what makes this really interesting to me is because Aquarius risings having a Pisces second house are usually really forgetful, or like don't really care with their possessions. Like they're just like, oh, I lost this, like just another day, like it's no big deal. But having Saturn in there too, I can imagine like it can be super frustrating, especially because you have a night chart and Saturn's like a day planet, so it can feel like Saturn's like punishing you when you lose stuff, like physically. But that, I just want to offer you like A, like understanding, and B, like just wanting to let you know that because things will get better. Like Saturn gets better with time. So just wanted to let you know that I believe that this also points to having inherited like Pisces like gifts from your ancestors, like intuition, creativity, emergent like strategy, just like going with like the new information that's presented to you, and just being like, I'm a freaking like chameleon, like I am a shapeshifter, I can like adapt to any situation, and also having that kind of material stability that you're like wanting to have like in line like from your talents as you grow older. Like I believe that you will create, that kind of like home and that kind of like wealth that you deserve, like that abundance that you dream of. So yeah, just wanted to let you know. And also because you have Saturn retrograde, your first Saturn return is not, or like your Saturn return that's coming up when you're 28, that'll be your second one. Like you already had your first. Yes, anyone born with Saturn retrograde had their first Saturn return when they were like a baby, like literally like 2 months old. Yeah, and I have that too. So just wanted to let you know, like this is nothing new. Like no need to like stress out about it or
Oh
anything.
my God, that's wild. I was like sitting here like trying to prepare for my first Saturn return, but wow, I didn't know that. Thank you.
Baby, you already knew, like, the knows the vibes. So yeah, again, I think that's really important. So yeah, and then connecting to, like, again, baby you, like Gemini, Mars you, having that like kind of impulse driven like decision making, yeah, like just satiating that moon by like just taking trips and like reading books and escaping into your art, which is 5th house. I think that would really like help you, because I know that having a moon Mars is already really like intense, especially, but at the 0 degree, it's like that's the pure Gemini energy, and I really see that in you, in your art. So just wanted to thank you, because I know I went to your workshop and you killed it. So
Oh my God. I'm crying.
yes, okay, I'm really happy, and I don't want to I feel like I don't want to go on forever, so I'm just gonna stop like doing interpretations, and yeah, unless someone has like a burning question that has nothing to do with interpretations, do let me know. I don't know why, I don't want to bore y'all. I feel like
Sophie, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, encourage folks to screenshot that and smash those follow buttons.
yes, and I will be sending you a bonus for just attending, that has to do with this, and a recording which will be transcribed in Spanish. Also, you can get 20% off readings with me, and this is my name on YouTube, Medium, Instagram, and TikTok, Astrology Chisme. That's where you can find me. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming.
This was so great. Thank you, Sophie, and also thank you everyone for being here tonight. And this was so special. And you can also find Sophie's film on the Zapatista movement on their pages that they shared, and also through In Honor of Our Roots, which was in partnership with Sophie with our Earthseed exhibition. And yeah, we're just grateful for y'all for tonight, and also to Sophie, who is literally amazing and was stunning tonight. Perfect full moon engagement, like a perfect full moon celebration.
Yes, happy full moon in Cancer, y'all. Yeah, just don't be afraid to embrace the moon and Cancer and stuff like that. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was so lovely to meet you all.
Bye, Natalie. Chelsea. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's still recording. It's still recording. But we're so excited